Hello everyone. So as I'm sure most of you are aware, Last Epoch got a big update, and in this update they overhauled the crafting system. So I thought I'd make an updated video going over the changes in the new system. For people that are familiar with the older system, you'll be able to pick this up pretty quickly, but I'll try to explain this like I'm explaining it to somebody who's completely new to this game. So let's get started. Every single item in Last Epoch has forging potential. You can see the item's forging potential at the top underneath of the item's implicits. This staff right here has 16 forging potential. So when you place the item in the forge and you go to upgrade an affix, you can see the cost of forging potential that it could have on the item. So as you can see here, to upgrade the chance to ignite on hit from tier 2 to tier 3 could cost anywhere between 1 to 12 forging potential. And once an item reaches 0 forging potential, it cannot be crafted on any further. So it's pretty similar to the older system in that there's still a lot of RNG, and 1 or 2 crafts could completely remove all of your forging potential if you get unlucky. But there are quite a few tools in our arsenal to kind of help negate this problem. First, we have glyphs. The first glyph, the glyph of hope, modifies the outcome of a craft, granting it a 25% chance to have no forging potential cost. So pretty much anytime you're upgrading affixes, and there's going to be some other scenarios where you might not want to use this, but for the most part, you're going to be wanting to use a glyph of hope, just for that 25% chance for it to not cost any forging potential. Next, we have the glyph of chaos, and this randomly changes the upgraded affix to a different one that can spawn on that item type. This is something that I usually use at the very end of the crafting process. So say an item has 1 or 2 affixes that I really like, I'll try to upgrade them as high as I can go, and then if there's another affix on the item that doesn't fit well, then I will use a glyph of chaos on that affix. For instance, say I don't want this spell critical strike chance, and I will upgrade and reroll. And it changed it to melee lightning damage tier 5. Next, we have the glyph of order. This prevents the roll of an affix within its range changing when it's upgraded. So as you can see here, the chance to ignite on hit is at 46%, but the range is anywhere between 42% and 51%. But let's just say it rolled 51% instead. Well, then I might want to use a glyph of order when upgrading this affix. That way when it goes to tier 3, it rolls the max roll it could possibly get. I've noticed that the glyph of order is for pretty niche scenarios, and I haven't found myself using it too much. Next, we have the glyph of despair. The glyph of despair has a chance to seal an affix instead of upgrading it. The sealed affix is moved to its own slot, leaving its old slot open for you to add a new affix. So basically, every single item in the game can only have 4 affixes, 2 prefixes, and 2 suffixes. But using the glyph of despair, you can seal an affix and open up another slot to craft something else on the item. Obviously, it only has a chance to seal an affix, so it's not guaranteed to happen. But this can be a pretty good way to get some really powerful items. Next, let's talk about runes. A lot of these runes existed in the same exact form that they did in the old crafting system. The first rune, the Rune of Shattering, destroys an item, creating a random number of affix shards containing its powers. This can be really useful if you're running low on affix shards that you need. For instance, if you needed chance to ignite on hit affix shards, you could look for them on the ground, place them in here, and use a Rune of Shattering, and you'll get some of the affixes from that item. And you can see all of your materials by clicking the View Materials button up here in the left-hand corner. Here you can see all of your prefix and suffix shards, as well as all of your runes and glyphs. Next, we have the Rune of Refinement. This re-rolls the values of all affixes on an item within their tiers. So here on this item, we have increased damage over time, and that's rolled between 23% to 37%. So say if I wanted to try to push this to 37%, I could click Refine using this rune, and it rolled 35% again. But you need to be careful because it re-rolls every single affix on the item. So while you might get some good rolls on other affixes, you might lower the other rolls of some of the ones that you really want by a significant amount. Next, we have the Rune of Removal. This removes a random affix on an item, returning a number of shards equal to its tier. And this one's pretty straightforward. Basically, it'll just randomly remove an affix, so if you have one on an item that you don't want, then you could try to use this to get rid of it. But once again, it can be pretty risky. Next, we have the Rune of Discovery. This adds random tier 1 affixes to all empty affix slots on an item, and it has an increased chance of rolling rarer affixes. This is another crafting regent that I haven't found myself using too much. Maybe it could be useful to use it on a rare item that only has like 3 affixes but it has a lot of forging potential. The good thing here is that using this doesn't cost any forging potential. But on the other hand, whatever affix it does add, it adds it only at tier 1. So if you want to upgrade it, you're going to have to upgrade it all the way from tier 1, which could cost you a lot of forging potential. And next we have the Rune of Shaping. This rerolls all implicits on an item. So every single item in the game has implicits, like you can see here up at the top of this one-handed axe. For this axe in particular, it has 46 melee necrotic damage, 146% increased melee necrotic damage, and 120% increased minion necrotic damage. The increased melee necrotic damage and the increased minion necrotic damage all have a range at which they can roll between. The range on this particular item for both of these implicits is anywhere between 100% to 166%. So if we wanted to try to re-roll these, we could use this Rune of Shaping. And you can see that it re-rolled the melee necrotic damage and the increased minion necrotic damage. And lastly, we have the two rare runes. The first one, the Rune of Ascendance, changes an item into a unique or set item of the same item type. Basically, any ring can turn into any unique ring, but it couldn't turn into a pair of unique boots. And the Rune of Creation removes all forging potential from an item and then duplicates it. This could be really good if you're a character who's maybe dual wielding 2 weapons and you crafted one perfect weapon. You could just duplicate that item and have 2 of them. Same thing for rings. So let's briefly go over how you might craft an item. So for this particular weapon, I want to upgrade the increased physical damage affix. So I add the shard and I also add the glyph of hope. This way I'm maximizing my chances of not using too much forging potential. So right now this item has 20 forging potential. Let's upgrade it. Now it has 15, so it only used 5 that time. I'm only at tier 2 physical damage, so I want to upgrade it again. I'm not going to change anything, I'm just going to leave the glyph of hope here. This time the cost has gone up a little bit. Instead of being 1 to 10 forging potential, it is now anywhere between 1 and 12 forging potential, and this will actually go up with the tier of the affix. So let's upgrade it again, and it didn't use any forging potential, so the glyph of hope actually worked. Okay, I just want to keep going. So we upgraded it again, and it used all of my forging potential. And that's just kind of the nature of this new system. You can get really lucky and have it not cost any potential a lot of crafts in a row. Or you can have it cost the maximum potential and you can only get 1 or 2 crafts off on the item. So it can sort of feel similar to the old crafting system when it comes to the RNG of things. Although I do feel like this system is much better. Also, just a couple quick tips for this crafting system. After every single monolith you do, you might want to check the vendor for Runes of Shattering. Right now, she's selling 4 Runes of Shattering for 2,000 gold apiece. This is a great and easy way to stay stocked up on Runes of Shattering. Also, when using Runes of Shattering, you get more affix shards the higher the tier of the affix on the item. So picking up exalted items that drop with tier 6 affixes are great ways to get a lot of affix shards. So this item has a tier 6 increased damage over time affix. You could use a Rune of Shattering, and I got +5 damage over time shards. So it could be worth picking up a lot of the exalted items you find just to use Runes of Shattering on them for more affix shards. But yeah guys, that about wraps it up. This crafting system isn't really all that complicated. If you have any more questions, make sure to ask them in the comments below, and I'll try my best to answer them. And don't forget to subscribe for more gaming related content.